Good evening, I'm Brittyn Clennett in Hong Kong and welcome to ViuTV News. Coming up on tonight's show. Healthcare policies in the spotlight ahead of next week's policy address, with nurse clinics set to relieve the burden on public hospitals. A tragedy in Chung. A man is suspected of killing his elderly mother at home before jumping off the building. US President Donald Trump hints at further action against North Korea in cryptic tweets. Our top story tonight, healthcare policies ahead of Chief Executive's Carrie Lam's maiden policy address. Sources say she plans to bring different departments together to steer new initiatives boosting healthcare services for the poor. These include adding hundreds of beds in public hospitals and sending medical professionals to elderly homes regularly. Another major move, setting up nurse-led community clinics. Currently, nurse clinics here, which provide basic health checks, are operated by NGOs. A former hospital authority official said more of such clinics could ease overcrowding at public hospitals.
These clinics are aimed at disease prevention at the grassroots level. If more prevention and health education could be done on the community level, it could lower the need for people to head to emergency rooms and public hospitals.
Meanwhile, a group of patients suffering from a rare disease made a desperate call for the government to introduce a new drug that could save their lives. They gathered outside the Chief Executive office this morning with their families and lawmaker Fernando Zhang. The patients all suffer from spinal muscular atrophy, a genetic disorder that destroys their physical abilities. Carrie Lam came out and met with the group.
I've personally asked the Secretary for Food and Health to discuss with the pharmaceutical company about bringing the drug here. But as far as we know, it has no plan to sell to Hong Kong yet. Under the current system, there's little the hospital authority can do, as it's not a registered drug here. But we're also fighting for the company to exercise discretion for these special cases.
The patient's need for the drug was detailed in their petition, but that didn't come easily. It was put together by 23-year-old Josie Chow, who spent 4 months compiling the 22-page report using just 2 fingers. Carrie Lam personally picked up the proposal from her. Right, now to a domestic tragedy in Chung. A woman was found dead inside an apartment after her son was believed to have jumped from their residential building in Kwai East Estate this afternoon. Police are treating it as a murder and attempted suicide case. The 34-year-old man was found injured on a slope across from Shing On House, the block he lives in. After an initial investigation, officers found his 77-year-old mother dead inside a unit on the 16th floor of the same block. There were visible wounds on her neck. Police also found a knife that the man had allegedly used to kill her. It's believed he had felt under pressure from taking care of his elderly mother. Well, legislator Fernando Zhang said tragedies like this shed light on the lack of support for young people who need to take care of the old in their family. He said the government should take into consideration the capacity of the elderly's family members when reviewing applications for financial assistance in care homes. A local NGO echoed his view, saying there should be more systematic support for elderly carers. Police are investigating a fire that broke out under the Ferry Street flyover in Yau Ma Tei this morning. Huge plumes of black smoke were seen rising above the flyover. It happened around 10 a.m. when a pile of objects underneath it caught fire. It's believed they belong to the street sleepers who take shelter there. It took firefighters around half an hour to contain the blaze. Sections of Ferry Street were cordoned off but reopened soon after. Elsewhere now, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has praised his country's military program, saying they are a, quote, powerful deterrent that guaranteed its sovereignty. His comments come after US President took to Twitter to hint at a possible plan of action against North Korea amid an escalating war of words. Grace Lee reports.
Well, you'll figure that out pretty soon.
Cryptic words from the U.S. president on Saturday when asked to clarify a pair of tweets about North Korea. Only one thing will work in dealing with the regime, he tweeted, after previous administrations had talked to Pyongyang without results.
If we take that option, it will be devastating. I can tell you that. Devastating for North Korea. That's called the military option.
Trump has been increasingly hinting at military action in recent weeks and has said that the U.S. would totally destroy North Korea if necessary to protect itself and its allies from Pyongyang's nuclear threats. He was also asked about another comment from earlier this week, to which the president responded,
Nothing to clarify.
"What's clear is that the U.S. president is not interested in talking with Pyongyang." On Sunday, he dismissed the idea of talks as a waste of time, a day after Secretary of State Rex Tillerson said Washington was keeping lines open with the North. North Korea is reportedly preparing to test a long-range missile that it believes can reach the U.S. West Coast, according to a Russian lawmaker who visited Pyongyang last week. Its nuclear and missile programs have driven up tensions in the region and around the world.
Speaking in an interview, Trump said he's keen on brokering a peace deal between Israel and Palestine, saying he's going to, quote, give it a shot. That's as he explained why he's not yet fulfilling a campaign promise to recognize Jerusalem as Israel's capital and relocate the U.S. embassy to the city from Tel Aviv. The status of Jerusalem has been a long-running centerpiece of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, with both sides laying claim to the holy city.
I'm not making any predictions, but I want to give that a shot before I even think about moving the embassy to Jerusalem. So we'll see. But as you know, I'm very, very strong on Israel, and I want to see if we can make peace. If we can make peace between the Palestinians and Israel, I think it'll lead to ultimately peace in the Middle East, which has to happen.
Hurricane Nate has made landfall near the mouth of the Mississippi River as a Category 1 storm with winds of 137 kilometres per hour. The fast-moving storm is now threatening parts of Louisiana, Mississippi and Alabama with torrential rain and potential flooding.
The forward movement is limiting its ability to draw that energy from the warm waters, and that's a good thing. The other good thing is it's going to hit and move through our area at a relatively fast rate, limiting the amount of time it's going to drop rain and so forth. But this is a very dangerous storm nonetheless.
Nate killed at least 30 people in Central America before entering the warm waters of the Gulf and bearing down on the U.S. South. It's the fourth major storm to strike the region in less than 2 months. With many still suffering the damage left by the other hurricanes, Mississippi residents are glad they had time to prepare early on.
Oh, we have our water, we're full of gas, our generators are working, they are ready with gas, lots of food and lots of snacks, and get ready to hunker down for the evening.
I went through Katrina, which was the 5, you know, and it wasn't fun, but I stayed in my house. So, you know, the only thing you can do is prepare. There's nothing you really can do when the storm comes unless you're going to leave. And I don't plan on leaving, so I got to do what I can do.
All right, coming up next, the latest from the world of business. First up, a quick look at the week ahead in business news. Investors and traders will be keeping an eye on the S&P 500, which hit record highs this week, riding on US tax overhaul optimism. Over in Europe, the pound is expected to be tested as UK Prime Minister Theresa May hinted at plans to remove Foreign Minister Boris Johnson. Uncertainty also in Spain after the country's bonds slid on Catalonia's independence claim. Several banks have also moved their headquarters outside Catalonia. To the mainland, where demand for liquefied natural gas trucks has soared. That's as the central government steps up anti-pollution measures to curb diesel use. According to IHS Market Consultancy, mainland sales of LNG heavy trucks like this one surged 540% to nearly 39,000 in the first 7 months of the year. That's partly because of a ban this year on the use of diesel trucks to transport coal at northern ports, making LNG trucks a far cheaper alternative. And China, the world's third largest LNG consumer, has so far seen imports rise 45% this year. Saudi Arabia's decision to allow women to drive has opened up a large market for car companies. At an auto show in Riyadh, local car makers called it a win-win for both society and the economy. Lucy Fielder reports.
A fleet of potential new customers at this car show in Riyadh. Women. They were given the right to drive last week after nearly 3 decades of campaigning. Saudi Arabia was the last country in the world to bar female drivers.
I'm very excited after the King announced women are allowed to drive. So I said, I'm going to come look for my future car. I'm so excited. Everyone is so nice. Everyone's being very friendly. So I think I won't have a hard time finding my car.
King Salman decreed that women will be able to take the driving seat by next June. So clients might have to wait a while yet for that test run. A typical middle-class Saudi family has 2 cars, one driven by the man of the house and the other by a chauffeur who transports his wife and children. So the decree will change the lifestyles of more than 10 million adult women, including foreigners, who live in the conservative kingdom. It shouldn't do car sales any harm either.
We are actually happy for that decision in both terms, like in the society and also in business-wise. Business-wise, it will help to increase the sales for the cars and automotive market.
The current ban limits women's mobility and is seen by activists as an emblem of their suppression. The UN has welcomed the breakthrough, but urged the kingdom to do much more to end discrimination.
All right, stay with us. We're picking Singapore's brains after the break as we take a look at not your traditional type of sport that's gaining massive popularity in the Lion City.